We've all got to say a big, big thank you to Geri, because without her, we wouldn't be able to have done this.
April 2000. The Spice Girls had conquered the world. 3 of the band members are recording new material for the 3rd album in Miami, but one will record her vocals later. They'd sold over 35 million albums, broken chart records, starred in their own blockbuster film, completed one of the biggest tours of the decade, and had just been honored at the Brit Awards with the Outstanding Contribution to British Music.
For a tired old record executive like me, this is a dream come true.
You've hit the jackpot, haven't you?
We hope so.
To most people, that sounds like a band at the very top. But 26 years ago, the media saw something completely different. This issue of Hello wasn't celebrating the future of the Spice Girls. It was questioning whether they even had one. Across several pages, it asks, what next for the Spice Girls? Is girl power going solo? Looking back today, knowing everything that happened afterwards, it's a fascinating time capsule, because some of the predictions inside were surprisingly accurate, while others couldn't have been more wrong. This magazine was published just under 2 years after Geri Halliwell's departure. The remaining 4 members were still together, but life had changed dramatically. Victoria Beckham had become one half of Britain's biggest celebrity couple. Mel B had embraced motherhood and released 2 solo singles, including a #1 smash hit. Emma Bunton had already begun testing the waters as a solo performer with Tin Tin Out, and Melanie C, well, Melanie C had become something nobody expected, a genuine solo superstar. Her debut album Northern Star had transformed public opinion. No longer was she simply Sporty Spice. She was becoming one of Britain's most respected female recording artists in her own right. So today, I thought we'd do something a little different, rather than simply looking through another magazine. Let's step back into April 2000. Let's read exactly what journalists thought the future held for the Spice Girls. Because hindsight is a wonderful thing. And history is often much more complicated than people remember.
Okay, until next time, hopefully. Take it away, girls!
It's actually difficult to remember today just how uncertain things felt in the year 2000. Nowadays, we know the story. We know Forever was only months away. We know the band would eventually go on a hiatus. We know there would be reunions, Olympic performances, world tours, Royal Mail stamps, Royal Mint coins, and countless celebrations of their legacy. But none of that had happened yet. Nobody knew what the future looked like, and that's exactly why this magazine is so interesting. Rather than asking whether the Spice Girls had been successful, that debate was already over. Instead, journalists were asking whether the phenomenon had already reached its peak. Gone is the brash lust for life and rent-a-quotability that the girls once stood for. Think back to 1996. The Spice Girls burst into the music industry with limitless energy. Every interview produced another headline. Every appearance generated another unforgettable quote. Girl power wasn't simply a slogan. It was a personality. They were loud, confident, unpredictable, completely impossible to ignore. But by April 2000, those personalities had matured. The girls weren't rebellious teenagers anymore. They were women in their mid-20s navigating fame, motherhood, and increasingly separate careers. Reading this today, you almost get the impression that the media believed growing up itself posed a threat to the group. Not because anyone disliked them, but because adulthood didn't fit the chaotic image that had made them famous. The article even suggests that returning to full-time Spice Girls life might now feel like a chore. That's a remarkable observation, especially when you consider the group were still actively recording together. The 3rd album hadn't even been released yet. The Spice Girls hadn't announced any plans to split. Yet the media was already wondering whether their best days were behind them, and perhaps that's understandable. because the previous 2 years had changed everything. In May 1998, Geri Halliwell shocked the world by leaving the band. It wasn't simply another lineup change, it became one of the biggest stories in pop music history. Suddenly, the Spice Girls looked vulnerable. For the first time, people questioned whether the world's biggest girl group could survive. Remarkably, they did. The remaining 4 completed the Spice World Tour, released Goodbye, continued working together, and entered the studio to record new material. But the atmosphere surrounding the group had changed forever. Instead of asking, how much bigger can they become? People had started asking, how much longer can they last? That shift in public perception is written all over this magazine. While the magazine questions the future of the Spice Girls, one member receives almost all of the attention. Melanie C, who gave an interview to Hello, which resulted in this article. And honestly, it's easy to understand why she was the one to speak to at this time. By April 2000, she wasn't simply enjoying a successful solo project. She had completely exceeded expectations. When Geri left the band in 1998, many people assumed she'd become the breakout solo star. Instead, that honor unexpectedly went to Melanie C. Northern Star wasn't a typical Spice Girls side project. It reinvented her. Songs like Going Down hinted that she wanted to move away from bubblegum pop. Then came Never Be the Same Again, which became a huge international hit and reached #1 in the UK. Almost overnight, Sporty Spice had become one of Britain's biggest female solo artists. The magazine even describes her success as giving fresh momentum to the question, is girl power going solo? That's a fascinating way of looking at it. Not because Melanie C wanted to leave, but because her success proved something important. For the first time, a Spice Girl didn't need the group in order to dominate the charts. Throughout the interview, Melanie actually sounds remarkably grounded. She talks about superstition, walking under ladders, saluting magpies, and reflects warmly on the ritual the group performed together before every concert. It's a lovely reminder that despite everything happening around them, they still thought of themselves as a team. There's another part of the interview I really like. When she's asked about the future, Melanie doesn't make grand predictions. She simply says she's happy. She's enjoying making music. She wants to keep creating. Reading that in 2026 is almost surreal, because that's exactly what happened. 26 years later, Melanie Chisholm is still releasing music, still touring, still performing around the world, still proudly representing the legacy of Sporty Spice while continuing to evolve as an artist. In many ways, this interview captures the blueprint for the rest of her career, not chasing headlines, not trying to reinvent herself every few years, just consistently making music because she genuinely loves doing it. Ironically, that's probably why her solo career has endured for so long. And while the magazine frames her success as a possible threat to the Spice Girls, history tells a different story. Melanie C never stopped believing in the group. Even if she didn't want to continue promoting the third album in 2001. She went on to prove that one member could flourish individually, without abandoning what made the Spice Girls so special in the first place. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson hidden within these pages. Success didn't have to mean the end of the Spice Girls forever. It simply meant their story was entering its next chapter, and that meant space from the band's duties together for a few years. Now here's the full article as it is written in this April 2000 issue of Hello magazine. Enjoy, and thank you for watching. Check out my documentaries on Geri's departure and the Forever album if you haven't already.
Last month, the Spice Girls closed the Brit Awards with a medley of their greatest hits. The foursome had just been presented with gold statuettes, celebrating their outstanding contribution to British music. And when you look at what they've achieved in the 4 short years since they burst onto the pop scene, over 36 million albums sold, a #1 hit in 31 countries with their debut single, Wannabe, and a box office smash with the Spice World movie. then the girls certainly seem to deserve it. But taking a closer look at the prestigious music industry accolade raises an interesting question. Past winners include industry stalwarts such as the Bee Gees, the Eurythmics, and Fleetwood Mac, whose varied careers have spanned decades. So why did the Spice Girls receive an award that celebrates longevity, rather than just the ability to shift a colossal number of CDs? A week later, Melanie Chisholm, aka Sporty Spice, gave the question greater momentum when she claimed that the girls deserved the award because we were a phenomenal success. Note the tense of the verb. The interviewer certainly did, and went on to press the singer, who was currently enjoying success as a solo artist, as to its significance. "Well, we were, and we will be with the next album," retorted the Spice Girl, as she quickly covered her tracks. Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue, but, and this could just be a coincidence. There's currently much speculation in the record industry as to how much longer the girls will continue to chant their girl power mantra. The first crack appeared around 2 years ago when Geri Halliwell left the band. You could argue that the Spice Girls haven't really been the same since Ginger walked. Apart from the 1998 Christmas #1 Goodbye, a tribute to Geri apparently, there's been nothing new. The first 6 months after the original 5 became 4 was spent on a world tour, performing material from their first 2 albums. Then, while the girls were in America, Melanie B and Victoria revealed that they were pregnant. The group decided to take the next year off, an understandable move after a non-stop 2.5 years spent consolidating the Spice brand name to concentrate on personal projects. Baby presented a TV show and collaborated on a single. Scary recorded a couple of solo efforts before giving birth to Phoenix Chi and Posh. Well, Posh shopped, wed, and had Brooklyn Joseph Beckham, although not necessarily in that order. They might say they are the same 4 girls who shared a house with Geri in Maidenhead all those years ago, but the truth is, Emma, Victoria, and the 2 Mels have changed. Gone is the brash lust for life and rent-a-quotability that the girls once stood for. Instead, you get the feeling they are towing the party line, reluctant to reveal anything too interesting about themselves or their loved ones. It is as if their lives have changed so much during the band's career break that to return to a Spice life would be a chore. The band members are a canny foursome and probably well aware that teen pop bands have a finite shelf life as their original fans grow up and choose other role models. Although Mel B has been recording tracks for her new album, scheduled for release later in the year, and Emma and Victoria are also rumoured to be working on solo musical ventures, only Mel C and Geri seem to be actively continuing where the band left off, with Sporty knocking her former colleague off the #1 spot earlier this month. Of all the band members, it was alleged that Geri was the one to whom singing and dancing came the least naturally. Yet her career has fizzed and sparkled since she made the break, something Melanie Chisholm cannot fail to have noticed. So perhaps the next girl to leave the Spice Girls will not be Victoria pleading family commitments, but Sporty wishing to further her solo career. Here, Mel C talks about life as a chart-topping solo artist. "I'm really superstitious," she admits. "I always salute magpies. I don't like putting new shoes on the table, and if I break a mirror, I get depressed. But you know how you're not supposed to walk under ladders? Well, I always walk under them." Mel admits she's been superstitious since childhood, and that it's a characteristic she shares with the rest of the band. "When we were on the Spice World tour, there was a little ritual we'd perform before every show," she reveals. "We used to do this little chant, a silly musketeer thing, like all for one and one for all. The funny thing was, every single show went really, really well, so it must have worked. I'm also very, very fatalistic," she continues. "I think you can avoid situations, but you can't stop what's going to happen from happening, so there's no point trying to. But I've come to the conclusion that everything happens for a reason, and whatever you do just makes you into the person you are today, so there's no point worrying about it. After all, you can't change history." Fortunately for Mel, everything seems to be going right for her now. she's part of one of the biggest girl groups in history and has just topped the charts with her latest single, Never Be the Same Again, from her debut album Northern Star. The choice of title for the disc would seem an apt one, as the stars are definitely shining on her at the moment. I believe in the supernatural, the stars and astrology, says Mel. And I read my horoscopes, although I only believe them if they're good. At one point, I wanted to know what the future held for me. Now I don't. I want to find out for myself. I think my new attitude is because I'm really happy and enjoying life at the moment. With the success of Never Be the Same Again, her first #1 solo hit, her good fortune looks set to continue. But Sporty Spice is reluctant to tempt fate by making any predictions. I didn't want to know how the single would do, she said. I just hoped people would like it, the same way I hope they like the album. All I can say is it's my best effort, the best music I could have done. The rest is up to fate. The album is very personal, so I'll hope people don't quite know what I'm on about. It's a therapy kind of thing, just getting it all out. Something else Mel enjoys doing is performing on the big screen, a side to her she discovered when the Spice Girls filmed their Spice World movie. I'd like to be a female sliced alone, or Bruce Willis' sidekick in a film where I get to save the world, she says. It's easy to picture Sporty Spice abseiling down a cliff, whitewater rafting, or parachuting her way through an action-packed adventure in hot pursuit of a Bond baddie. But there's also a more down-to-earth side to Mel C, one which she's discovered since moving to London. There are a lot of homeless people in London, and it really annoys me that nobody does anything about them, she sighs. I always buy the big issue if I see someone selling it, and I always give homeless people on the streets a bit of money. I'd like to find out what else I could do to really make a difference, though. I'd also like to do something for kids who don't have anything, she adds. Recently, I saw this program about children living in poverty. They were bunking off school and getting up to mischief simply because they didn't have anything else to do. It made me think that the Spice Girls should help set up studios in council estates or youth centres in poor communities just to give kids a focus. This philanthropy suggests a certain spirituality on Sporty's part. Is she conventionally religious, and does she believe in life after death, for example? Yes, she replies. I'd like to believe in it. I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe in something. I'm not sure if it's God, but there is something there, some power, some force. Moving on to thoughts of the future raises questions about her own plans and bearing in mind her fellow band members' new roles as mothers. Her feelings about having children. I'm not at all broody, she says. I'm only 26. Sometimes I think about it, but I know I'm definitely not ready to have children because I'm too selfish. I haven't got time for them at the moment. It wouldn't be fair. I wouldn't want to leave them with some nanny all day, so it's not right for me to have any just yet. She won't be drawn on whether or not any plans to settle down might include Jason Brown of pop group 5, who she is rumoured to be dating. In fact, her only public utterance on the subject has been, "He's a good friend of mine, but it's early days." So what are her dreams for the future? I've always had this dream, this ambition, to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award in music, she blushes. I want to gain the sort of respect and admiration from people that I have for my idol, Madonna. Also, I want to go on making music for the rest of my life. I don't want to stop until I drop. When I'm dead and looking down from my little cloud in heaven. Because I am going to heaven, she adds, smiling mischievously and yanking up her top to reveal the word angel tattooed across her stomach. I'd like to be remembered for my music. I want my epitaph to read, "She be sadly missed."